Well, Kamran Bokhari is a counter-terrorism analyst at George Washington University. He's in our Washington studio. Thank you for joining us here on BBC News. First off, we've just been hearing about this idea that Mr. Trump is setting himself up for 3 crises. So he's in Syria, Afghanistan now, and everybody watching North Korea very closely. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't think we should necessarily focus on President Trump and that this is his crisis or he's doing something. Presidents usually are dealing with multiple crises, especially in these kind of situations. President Obama's faced the same situation, and before him, President Bush, but obviously the circumstances are different. The story is different, but it's not like a new president comes in and he creates a new problem or he faces a unique situation. So I think that to say that there are 3 crises that will constrain, that's not new. Constraints are always there. In fact, I would say constraints are the most underappreciated of reality that most observers just miss. So I think that when we say strategy or whether he will face crises, I think we should separate it from the personality of the president.
Okay, we'll get to strategy in a moment, but what makes him think that, or this particular administration think that he can get it right, where others have either stumbled, failed, or hesitated, or moved with caution? He is engaging directly here, and there's that huge threat that's making its way to North Korea. It's a great show of arms.
Yes, I mean, look, I don't think that he thinks necessarily. I mean, he's not obviously, it's politically not the right thing to say that, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to succeed. Obviously, political leaders will say that they will succeed. That's the public statement. But in reality, they do their best, and it's a very difficult situation. Now, regarding North Korea, I mean, one of the things that needs to be bared in mind here is that the North Koreans are not irrational. Yes, they appear to be, unpredictable, and the idea that this is a regime that does not behave rationally, I think that is exactly the kind of view that Pyongyang wants to send out so that they can shape behavior on the part of the United States and they can have leverage on the negotiating table.
Okay, let's talk about strategy now. We're seeing direct engagement by the US. Does this give any idea in terms of a fixed strategy, though?
Well, I mean, there's never a fixed strategy. And in a situation where you are operating in different continents and you're operating in different circumstances, you can't have a coherent strategy. You have to essentially tailor it, customize it to the situation on the ground. So, for example, the United States is not interested in toppling the Assad regime. And on this issue, there's more of a meeting of minds between Russia and the United States than is generally at least admitted or known. But when there was a chemical weapons attack, then that forces the hand of the president to shift gears. Why? Because he can't be seen as the same or behaving in the manner that is similar to what President Obama did in 2013 in August, when he established a red line and then he said that he walked away from punitive measures against the regime. So those kind of situations emerge and you have to take a decision. It's not pre-planned. I mean, there are times you have to do things that you otherwise would not want to.
Okay, and what about IS? Because they have now been attacked directly by the US. Will they be unnerved by this, that they are being targeted in such a direct way outside of Iraq and Syria?
So they've been targeted directly inside Iraq and Syria, which matters more to ISIS than any outpost anywhere around the world. So I don't think that this changes much for the threat perception of ISIS. It's not as if they will now decide what to do. I think that ISIS, considering that it is a sophisticated entity and the threat that it poses because of that sophistication, I mean, this is an organization that has already factored in that it will lose leaders, lose facilities. It may not have expected that a MOAB would be used, but when they are out there, they generally expect to be hit. This is part of their decision-making process. So I don't see how they will react differently and what other options they have to counteract against such measures.
Okay. Kamran Bokhari, thank you for your time from George Washington University. Thank you.